Avoir.
Lamb. Okay, we are rolling. Welcome to another episode of FitPet Boston Talks. I'm super excited to be back in the home studio with Laurie. It's been a while since we've done an episode, and we didn't release one in the month of March. I tried very hard to get in here before March 31st, but it didn't happen. So it is the month of April. Happy spring, everybody.
But it's April 2nd.
It's April 2nd.
Ooh, it's a near miss.
It's a near miss. Can you talk more into the microphone because it's not going to pick you up? Okay, there we go. All right, what Laurie and I are going to do today is a little Q&A. So I put it out there and got some interesting questions. Got a lot of interesting responses. I think Q&As are fun when I put the box out because it gives me an opportunity to connect with people on Instagram that I normally don't really talk to. I don't add all of the questions that I get to the Q&A because, again, some of them are a little bit more personal or maybe case specific.
Personal?
And yeah, just like, hey, how are you?
Oh.
Like, how's Ruben doing?
Oh.
Okay, I'm not going to answer that on the podcast.
Yeah, you can tell. You got to put your box out there.
Yeah, so I put the question box out there, get some interesting responses, and I picked 4 that I think are really great questions and that can help the most amount of people. So that's what we're here to do. I just wanted to say as a disclaimer, we are not vets. We are not scientists. And what we say in response to these questions is our opinion based off of what we have seen. So we will try to reference studies here and there if it is appropriate. And when I do reference a study, what I will do is go ahead and put it in the highlight reel on the Instagram page for FitPet Boston. If you're interested in checking out one of those studies, I will do my best to get them out there. I have a resources tab there for you. So anyway, let's get right into this.
Imagine you have to tell people that after listening to us so long that we are not scientists. Everyone at home just went, no shit. I don't even know why I listen to these fools.
Right. Well, what if this is your first time listening to FitPet Boston Talks?
Yeah.
You might think
we are
something that we
scientists.
aren't.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're dog trainers. I am a dog walker. I like to call myself a dog walker because that's what I spend the majority of my time doing. I love to be off leash in the woods with small groups of dogs. I like to do leash walks, and I generally just really enjoy what I do every day. And I occasionally teach some training classes, and Laurie would be a full-time dog trainer. So we keep a busy schedule, but that's what we do. And we've seen a lot of dogs and handled a lot of dogs, so we have opinions about a lot of things. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask your vet if you have a medical related question.
Yes, you should always ask your vet.
Mm-hmm. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Throw that in. Get
in
trouble.
So question number 1, which kind of is like a vet question, but you as a dog owner definitely have authority to make decisions because it is your dog at the end of the day. But question number 1 is, when do you spay and neuter? So Laurie has been doing some reading on this and has some strong opinions about it, as do I.
But strong?
Opinions. So why don't you just go ahead and tell them what you got?
I tend not to neuter. I spay my females, but I don't neuter my males usually. Or any male that lived in my house, I didn't neuter. When I had an intact female Rottweiler, I chose to neuter my pit bull because I didn't want to have any accidents in the house. And of course, I'm a person who is a heavy manager. And then my pit bull very easily scaled a 6-foot fence. And nothing happened because I caught it, but I couldn't afford to have that happen again. So that is the one reason I spayed my male dog, was because I had an intact female that I planned on breeding, and I only bred her once. So neutering your dogs, or neutering or spaying, will stop pregnancy, unwanted pregnancies. So that is absolutely something that neutering does. I'll just say neutering instead of neutering and spaying. So neutering will stop a dog from reproducing. I think that's the number one thing that it does. I don't think that it takes care of aggressive behavior. I don't think it lowers energy levels. I think it might reduce marking if your male dog marks. but I don't think it changes aggression or things like that, or behavioral issues. So marking and roaming, that's what I think that spaying and neutering does. Reduces marking, reduces roaming, and your dog definitely doesn't get pregnant.
Yeah, I think sometimes we tend to think of neutering your dog as like an absolute necessity that you have to do before the dog is 1 year old. I think a lot of new dog owners, new puppy owners, they assume that it's just something that they have to do with their dog before their dog is 1. And generally, I push back on that a little bit because I really want my dog to be completely and fully grown before I remove all of their sex organs, right? So when you spay or neuter a dog, you're removing their ability to naturally produce hormones, right? So if you think about like a eunuch, usually that's going to be like a pretty small, underdeveloped male. And that's essentially what you're doing to a male dog if you remove their sex organs. So we recommend waiting at least until your dog is 1. I think that sometimes people have come to us and say, well, won't my dog be humping? Won't my dog be more dominant or assertive? And I mean, I think you probably can speak to that a little bit better.
I just think these are training issues.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like a lot of the things are training issues. And I did read, I was looking at the whole dog journal, and I was trying to look at some medical sites for dogs, not, official sites. So they said these sites that I was looking at, it can put the dog at an increased risk for cruciate ligament ruptures, an increased risk for hip dysplasia, joint abnormalities, some cancers, incontinence, and tumor development after a neuter or a spay. It said that it reduces the risk of marking, roaming, testicular cancer, mammary cancer in females, and of course pyometra, which is an infection that develops in the female's uterus. Pyometra most likely. So in unspayed, pyometra usually happens, between ages 6 and 10, more common in dogs that have never had puppies. So like one of my customers called me and they said, I have this 5-year-old female and in spay her, I'm afraid to put her under. She was small, short nosed breed. And I said, I mean, if it was me, I would spay this dog. You're not going to breed her. And she stands a risk for getting pyometra, and it's life-threatening, and you have to catch it very early.
Yeah.
And it can be fixed, but in that case, I was like, no, spay her. You're not she's not going to breed. I feel like this dog is going to live a very long life. Then spay her. But if it's a male dog, no, I say keep him, unless the dog is. I mean, in my situation, I just didn't want the dog to breed, and it was too risky. I was worried management would fail, and.
Well, I also think in your situation, you were working a full-time job, so the dogs were loose in the house, and family members were letting your dogs out during the day while you were at work. So there were much more. There was more of a management
room for
issue.
error.
Yeah, because now, you'd be able to, like right now, we have 2 unaltered dogs in the house. We have a 6-month-old female lab, and we have Buddha, a 5-year-old Rottweiler, and neither of those dogs are altered. Raven, our little puppy, she's not outside of the crate unless she's supervised. So there isn't a chance for that to happen. Like there really honestly isn't. And
she'll go through 2 heats and we'll spay her.
Yeah. So for us, if you wanted to know what we do personally, Laurie answered the question about the male dogs. We don't neuter the male dogs. I neutered our dog Ruben when he was like 1.5, I think. And it did decrease his mounting of other dogs. He was definitely one to mount other dogs, and we live and work in an environment where there is a lot of dog traffic, and that did help the situation with him. I'm glad that I waited with him, and ultimately there is no way on God's green earth that I would want that dog to breed. So
I didn't want my pit bull to breed either.
Yeah. So, we didn't want him to be unaltered for any of those types of purposes. He was a rescue dog. And I was super grateful that the rescue even gave me the option of waiting to alter him. That was really cool. But Raven will stay intact until she goes through 2 heat cycles, and then we'll probably spay her. So that's just what we do. And you're obviously free to do whatever you want. What I would suggest is please just consider waiting until your dog is grown. So allow those hormones to let your dog get to a full size, to be as healthy as they possibly can be, before you go ahead and remove their sex hormones. It's not super duper, it's not as necessary as they make it sound, because here in Massachusetts, the culture around dogs are that dogs aren't really loose, free roaming around, right? Like in different parts of the states, like dogs are just loose and it's easy for them to reproduce if they're not spayed or neutered. Around here, especially closer to the city, if somebody sees a stray dog, they are putting it on every Facebook community page, calling the police and their neighbors, and that dog is going to be home in a matter of minutes.
The U.S. has the most neutered and spayed dogs anywhere.
Thank you, Bob Barker.
Yeah, 70s and 80s, there was too many dogs in the shelter, and then that's when all the campaigns started, and that's when they started neutering and spaying at 6 months. And personally, I think it's a shame if you spay and neuter a dog at a younger age.
Yeah.
But
I do.
I get it. I get why they were doing it, but I really think that it affects a dog, especially females. I think that they get incontinence, and it's way easier to want to spay a female because who wants to deal with the heat cycles?
Not me, but we're going to do it because it's better for the dog.
I know, we're going to have to put Buddha like far, far away.
Yeah,
Anywho.
Okay. All right. On to our next question. Okay. So there is going to be a trigger warning for this one. So.
Oh, what's this one?
Well, we're going to be talking about poop in this next segment here. And Laurie might actually have to use some earmuffs because she doesn't know what I'm going to say on the topic.
Oh, no.
So if you're not into listening.
I apologize.
Yeah. If you're not into listening to us talk about poop, you can go ahead and fast forward about 10 minutes or so, and we will be on to the next question. But our question here is, why do dogs eat poop? The person who asked the question actually said, why do dogs eat shit? But I'm changing it to poop. So why do dogs eat poop? And the short answer for that is because they always have. If you kind of take a look into what archaeologists have found in the fossilized poop remains of dogs, up to 50% of their diet in certain areas. Namely, there's a study that was done in Africa. It's called the Ethiopian study.
Oh, wow. We're going deep.
Mm-hmm. But scientists and archaeologists have found up to 50% of domesticated dogs' diets were human feces. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Kind of gross. So I like to think about that when somebody is really pushing like a raw feeding diet down my throat. Dogs as they were becoming domesticated or becoming friendlier towards humans. It was not survival of the fittest. It was survival of the friendliest. Okay. It was the survival of those dogs that were happy to be around humans, happy to be around camp. And a consequence of that friendliness was that dogs started eating things that humans ate, and they also started cleaning up the camp for us.
They became oddly friendly.
Yes, they became oddly friendly. In another study, and in the Ethiopian study, not only did they find human feces as a rather large part of the dog's diet, but they also found that dogs ate barley. In the American bottom study of the Mississippi River bottom, they also found that dogs were eating maize, which is corn, sunflower seeds, and other vegetable seeds. And this study dates the dogs back to around 100 to 900 AD. So we're talking, 2,000 years ago-ish. It was a long time ago. As dogs were beginning to be more a part of our human culture, they were eating a lot of the same things that we were eating, and that includes grain products. So again, people tend to think that a primal diet is the absolute best diet for your dog ever. And if we take a closer look at dog poop and what archaeologists have found in dog poop, they're finding the same things that humans were eating and some other unmentionables. So,
Unmentionable.
yeah, the idea that a big part of a dog's diet was human poop is not exactly
No one talks about it.
Yeah, no one talks about that. Another
Let me
part.
tell ya,
Yeah, another
there's a
kind of
reason.
gross things. They find a lot of human remains in the dog poop as well. This is
Human
just
remains?
yeah. This is part of life, right?
Like Dahmer shit?
Yeah, like Dahmer shit.
Oh, God.
So why do dogs eat poop? Because they always have. Okay, it's survival of the friendliest, and they were cleaning up camp for us. So it's a part of life. I like to tell my clients only the good dogs eat poop because so many of them do. And it's a behavior that you as an owner can manage if you don't like, right? So like in our yard, we keep the yard wicked clean so that dogs that like to eat poop have less of an opportunity to do that. When I have dogs off the leash, I know the dogs that are going to sniff out the unmentionables. I try to keep a closer eye on them. I can say with confidence that my dogs that do have this behavior do it much less than they did previously, which I'm pretty proud of. But it's still something that some of your dogs might just want to do. And I know that it's annoying and disgusting. But just being outside with your dog so that you
don't
can
allow the opportunity for them to do it because it will become stronger.
Yeah, you can't let them do it. I don't know if you want to try and keep your freaking yards clean, people.
Oh my God.
Keep your yards clean.
If we do a class at somebody's house, for God, clean your yard before we go there. I want to worry about training your dog, not stepping in piles of shit everywhere. It's just disgusting. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it is. And
I've like, you didn't even try. Did you try to clean it up? Because your dog steps in this. And then, oh my God, what if your dog doesn't have, a fecal test every year, which that you do not give your dog a fecal test every year unless you're a psycho like me. And what if your dog has worms and then your kid steps on it and then they bring it inside the house? Come on.
Yeah.
Clean your yard or designate a space for your dog to go.
It's also a reason why, like, when I bring a group into the woods, I literally have, like, a poop bag on my hand because I know that the dogs are going to go to the bathroom immediately, and I do clean up that first, 2 minutes that I'm out with my dogs, they're all going to poop. So it gives me an opportunity to pick it straight up. It's another reason why I do pick up poop when I go to the woods with my dogs because I know that there are dogs that eat it, and I don't want to perpetuate parasites and infection and all that other stuff. So yeah, it's a problem. A lot of dogs do it. It's a behavior that you can manage. Sometimes if a dog has serious pica, and pica is a little different. So poop eating is called coprophagia, and pica is a little bit different. Pica is when, the definition is persistent chewing or consumption of a non-nutritious substance that causes no physical benefit to the animal. So if your dog eats bark mulch, rocks,
dirt rock,
pacifiers, plastic bags, stuff like this, it's called pica. I am going to go ahead and say I personally believe that it's genetic because there are certain dogs that have severe coprophagia and pica, and when you get two that come from the same breeder that have the exact same behavior, I think that there is a genetic component to it. I've recently had to muzzle train a perfectly friendly, wonderful, beautiful black lab because he keeps getting impacted bowel because he's eating bark mulch and rocks and leaves and stuff like that. And that's an option too for, pica or poop eating and stuff like that, is that you can muzzle train the dog if it really is out of control. But yeah, a really interesting topic. I think that a lot of people just don't know the history of how dogs came alongside of us and started to, and how friendly dogs started to breed with one another. It was all about their ability to coexist with humans and be close to humans, right? And there are some gross things that kind of come along with that. But ultimately, man's best friend, they're the best animals in the world. And as far as I'm concerned, they're so cool. There are so many wonderful, great qualities that dogs have.
Willing to eat your own shit.
If we have to deal with this one,
Well, I remember Leah said, these customers we have, they're getting a dog from the same mother and father as so-and-so. And I said, this dog is going to eat shit. I said, their current dog does it. This next dog is going to do it. The parents do it. I swear to God, the kids do. And sure as shit, that dog eats it. And I have to make sure that yard is clear. I make sure that when she comes in, it's empty because she will beeline it for it. I'm telling you. I remember working with breeders too. They're like, "Oh, good. This bitch doesn't eat shit. Hopefully, your puppies won't do it." So if they noticed it, come on, it's got to be. And then it's harder for a female. Ripa never did it, but after she had puppies, they clean the puppies and they clean the den. Unless you can get to it before they do. I would like clean all the bedding and such, but Ripa had to stimulate them to go to the bathroom. And there was a period of time right after that she was eating stool, but then she completely stopped. It was just during that time. Anyway, we can stop the conversation there. They say it's nutrient deficiencies that you can put stuff
I just
in
don't
the
believe
shit.
that.
It doesn't work, guys.
Yeah.
You can put it in for so long, the dog will won't want to eat their food because they know that you're adding things to it. Like pineapple, spinach, you name it. It doesn't stop the dog. They're going to do it. Clean your yard, for the love of Pete.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%
Yep.
agree. Okay, so next question. Any tips for keeping black dogs cool in the heat? Do you want to go first or you want me to go?
The only thing I'd say to that is I put a cold towel on any dog that's too hot. So that's it. I don't shave a dog. I don't do any of that stuff. I just put a cold towel on them and make sure that I don't keep them in the heat too long, and I make sure that they have good ventilation.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's it.
So totally unsubstantiated, but I was listening to another podcast, the authors of which I deeply respect, and they were talking about the different lab coat colors and how there really isn't too much of a difference between like a yellow and a black lab in terms of how hot the dog gets in the summer or when it's warm outside. So a dog does have some sweat glands in their feet, but for the most part, they cool themselves off by panting. So if we think about that just logically, they are breathing in the air, and the air has to be a cooler temperature than their body in order for them to cool off. So their body temperature is like 101. So anything cooler than 101 technically is going to cool them off. If it's 90 degrees, your dog is going to overheat, okay? If you have them out for too long and they're working too hard. So panting cools your dogs off. Swimming will cool your dog off because, again, it's the environment that is going to lower their body temperature, not their own innate ability to, sweat and regulate their body temperature themselves. I have like a wet vest for Ruben that I stick in a cooler. So if it's wicked hot and we're playing Frisbee, I throw that on him. I bring him out to the field in it. I take it off, we play, and I put it back on him when we go into the car. If you have a yellow dog and a black dog and they're out in the blazing heat of the sun, yes, the black dog is going to feel hotter to the touch than the yellow dog because the black fur is going to absorb the heat and the yellow fur is going to reflect more of that light. But hopefully nobody is exercising their dogs for any length of time in the high noon in the heat of the blazing sun, right? We don't want to do these things. It's just not common sense. So working out in the shade, keeping your sessions shorter in the heat of the summer. And even when it's warm, sometimes we have these really warm spring days. And then also a younger dog is probably not going to be able to regulate their heat as well as an older dog. So like an older dog is going to have more experience with getting overheated. Maybe they're going to lie down sooner. Maybe they're going to find a cooler spot to rest. Maybe they're going to let you know sooner that they're too hot. Whereas a younger dog might go balls to the walls because they're just overly excited. So just use caution. The breed of your dog is going to make a huge difference. The way that they were bred, right? If we have two dogs and we put them together and those dogs grew up in Mississippi and they went hunting, dove hunting in September when it was 90 degrees every year and they were fine and they have puppies, well, the puppies might be able to have a little bit of a higher heat tolerance. If you have two Newfoundlands and they have a lower heat tolerance and they spent all of their summers in Nova Scotia, they're not going to be able to tolerate the heat as well, right? So like your Mastiff breeds, your Cane Corsos, Rottweilers, they just don't do well in the heat. Okay, so
and cutting dogs' fur or hair, doesn't do
work.
any good there. So if anything, it just makes it easier because in the summertime you tend to explore more with your dog and you go into water, and so you want to cut your dog's hair shorter so that you don't have to brush it or deal with it. So no, shaving them down till they're naked is not going to make them immediately cooler. As a matter of fact, you can give them a sunburn from them not having any protection on their skin.
Great point.
Word.
Okay, awesome question. Our fourth and final question came from a fellow dog trainer. So this is going to be pretty specific to whether you work with dogs or you don't. But keep listening, even if you're just an owner, because we want everybody that comes to us for training to be teachable, and this question speaks directly to that. Okay, so the question is, it's a little bit of a longer one. Tips on how to deal with clients who seek help, but then don't really want to put the work in or just don't do what you tell them. How do you handle stubborn or difficult clients? I'll let Laurie go first on this one because you deal with clients more than I do. Face to face.
You're fired. That's what I say. Get out of my yard.
Get off of my lawn.
Get off of my lawn. I think it's super irritating. I actually went to somebody's house after we had an outdoor class, and then I had a class in their house, and I said, have you did you work on this, and this, from the last class? And they said no. And I just kind of nodded my head, and I was like, why don't we just go for a walk? Because that was the number one thing that these customers wanted, was they wanted their dog to walk better on leash. So we went for a walk. Ended the walk, went into their house. I looked at them and I said, so you're happy with your dog now? I mean, I wasn't happy with their dog, but they were. And so as a trainer, they had reached the goal that they wanted to reach. That was to walk their dog on a loose leash without the dog taking them down or reacting to another dog. They were still going to, we passed a woman with a dog, and I continue to walk by this dog. Oh, but we know her. I said, I don't care. I want you to continue to walk past this dog. Oh, do you know that her dog is aggressive? I said, oh, her dog is aggressive? And you walk up to this dog all the time? Oh, yeah. The owner wants the dog and our dogs and us to all walk together. I said, so you put that dog who's dog reactive in a position that he has to deal with you all the time on a walk? And they said, yeah. And I said, do you think that's unfair to the dog? I want to kill everybody at this point, right? The owner with the dog reactive dog had a good hold on her dog. They do walk, and they usually mention that there's one incident per walk because they're older folks and they walk together in the afternoon. So at that point I go, well, anything I say isn't going to matter. I'm here for the class. I solved their problem. We go home. They didn't do anything else. There's nothing I can do. But they thought I was great, which is horrifying to me because I wanted the dog to do so much more for them. Like greeting people in a polite manner when they walk through the door, holding place. These things didn't matter. I wanted the dog to stop humping its owner. But if the owner finds that amusing, it doesn't matter what I say. And some owners get a rise if the person who's training them gets a rise. So I shut my mouth. The class was supposed to be 1 hour long. I left about after 40 minutes and I said, I guess my work is done here. They were happy and I left. So as dog trainers, I want to remind everyone that you need to ask the people, what are your goals? I had one lady, she goes, I want my dog to pee outside on the porch all the time. I said, on your porch. You sure? She said, yes. I go, okay. Like, I'm not here to change the world. I'll do what you want me to do. If you want your dog to reach a competition level or look beautiful and heal wonderfully, I am there. I'll answer your questions. I'm always there for you. But if somebody doesn't want to do the work, I tell them. When I've met customers who are just not doing the work with their dog, I said, hey, listen, you're really wasting your money. I said, you're not doing anything. I said, in 1 hour, once a week is not going to change your dog's behavior. I said, so you probably just want to save your money and go on your way. That's it. There's nothing I can do to change it. And as a young trainer, I had to realize that these people don't want, some people just don't want that 100% obedience that as dog trainers we want to reach with our animals because they represent us. If you're a dog trainer and your dog is not well behaved, people will look at your dog and say, well, what the hell are you going to do for my dog if you can't do this with your dog? So I think that we all feel that pressure when we get a dog, or, if we buy a dog or rescue a dog, we have expectations of ourselves. And sometimes pet parents, they don't want that. So kick them to the curb.
Yeah.
It's fine to do that. It's, and if it's detrimental to the dog's health, I've also told that to somebody too.
Yeah, I think what's kind of being understated about what you're saying is your retention is actually really good and your follow through with your clients is really good. And a couple of things that I've noticed that work really well for you is you have a way of using humor and being dynamic in a class to kind of win over your client, right? To convince them that if they do these things, they're going to see the results. And I think that really works well. And like you're able to retain clients and see results. It's, I think that there are just a few cases where
only a few,
you have to be like, wow, this person is totally like not picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah, I can name all the times in all my 18 years where I told somebody go pound sand.
Right. It does not it's not a frequent thing that happens.
Not at all.
I feel like with you.
I think you have to be like a good salesperson too.
Mm-hmm.
It's really rough if the dog has several behaviors. Like if you can get a ton of behaviors out of the dog in the first class, the people are immediately impressed and they want to stick with you. So I myself as a trainer get discouraged when I go to a class and the dog isn't picking up on things. If I can only get 2 behaviors out of the dog, or I can't get the dog to focus, or the people fed their dog, didn't listen to any of my rules, or they bring really shitty snacks and the dog's not interested in it, which is amazing that dogs don't want treats when they eat shit, which is what we just talked about. But I'm like, so I actually called Melissa, or I texted her. I go, oh man, I had just had a class. I was like, it wasn't great. She's like, oh, what happened? I said, I just couldn't get behaviors out of this dog. It wasn't as impressive as I wanted it to be. I thought I was going to get this dog just staring at me. The beginning it was working, and then all of a sudden we flip a switch. The dog wants nothing to do with me, and he's ready to crawl into the armpit of the little girl that's there, the mother, whatever. I get through the class. I get some behaviors, but I'm unimpressed. Usually if I feel this way as a trainer, I say to them, did this help? Usually at the end of a class, I say, did this help? But I especially say it when I don't feel like I've pulled enough behaviors. Like I needed a second class, I hate that feeling. Oh, I need a second class with this dog just so I can fix it. So, the fact is that you have to be really impressive in your first class of the dog. Mm-hmm. That's what gets the people through the door. Holy shit, this works. But if you walk in there and you don't get it done, they look at you and they're like, what? Anyway.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. It's a really tough thing.
Hated my class on this Saturday. Hated it yesterday. Blah.
I'm sorry.
I'll fix it. if they email me back, and I just hate that shit. Anyway, you have to be a good salesperson. Proof is in the pudding. I think it helps to have a really well-behaved dog so you can show them the potential through it. I don't think that you should show off with your dog in a class. I think that you need to handle the dog at hand. But I think that it always helps to have your distraction dog in a long down, far away on a cot. Yeah. And they might be able to see that. But in a home visit, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Can't bring your own dog, and you need to pull a bunch of behaviors. So be impressive, I suppose. And I don't know, just grab the people's attention any way you can.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this. Wow, my notes are like unbelievable. So I'm going to try really really hard. I think that there are probably people out there that are like coaches that can help dog trainers with this issue a lot better than I can, for sure, because it's something that, you know, we all struggle with on some level. And to me, anybody that says, oh, my clients just adhere to everything that I have to say.
Sure they do.
Yeah, I don't believe it. And if I do believe it, I think it's because they have a ginormous pool of people that are constantly hitting them up for training, maybe like a really popular dog trainer, and that person can kind of pick and choose who they want to work with and pick the people that, you know, they can kind of tell are committed from the giddy up. You know, when you have that first phone call or that first lesson, you can kind of tell whether the person is bought into what you're doing, if they believe in you and your training, and
The first phone call.
and we'll follow through. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
we have a funny first phone call. Don't say
It's
it though.
okay,
Don't say what it was.
I won't.
Okay, so some things that came to mind when I was thinking about this topic is, number one, taking extreme ownership for the interaction from start to finish. It's a lot easier if I say it's my responsibility to work with this person so that we can stay on the mission that is before us. And that is a lot harder when you're dealing with an aggression case. Okay. So like, let's say you're having behavioral problems with your dog. We want to make sure that the owner really understands what the mission is. Like, the mission is to make sure that this dog is managed and trained. And it's my responsibility as a trainer to make sure that that happens for the safety of everybody, and make it super clear to the owner, you know, the consequences of not following through with the training. And if you have a behavior case and you think that the owner is not bought in and they are not following through, it is a liability for you to keep working with that person. Like, straight up liability. Like, no, you can't do it. You have to say, I'm not the trainer for you. Here's a couple more recommendations. Have a nice day. If you're dealing with a dog that you have, you know, that doesn't have behavior problems, maybe they're a puppy, take that opportunity to learn your teaching style and what works, right? So you don't want to go into a puppy class and start talking science to the owner. We don't need to be talking about, you know, the domestication of dogs and drives and what marker systems that you're going to use.
Put them to sleep.
And like, it's like so freaking boring, right? Like, it's a puppy. Learn to, you know, of course, like, we're going to use the clicker or use yes. We're going to use food. We're going to use toys. We're going to help that person get the dog to stop pottying in the house. Make jokes. Figure out a way to connect with that person so that they remember what you say. A lot of the things that Laurie says in her classes, I say the same thing because they work. There are these little colloquialisms that people really carry along with them and they remember. If you have a puppy or you have a non-aggression case, that is your laboratory. That's where you learn what kind of trainer you are. Don't be boring. If you're boring, people aren't going to buy into what you're saying. They're going to just tune out. I mean, it's hard. Like, I love seminars. I love learning. I geek out on this stuff. But when you sit with a client that has no idea, like, what they're doing, they just need their puppy to stop shitting and pissing in the house. Like, just teach them the basics and make it fun for them. You know, be funny and engaging. That's super duper important.
And they have to practice while you're there in front of you. You can't take their dog the whole time. You can say, I'll show you one example. Okay, now you take the leash. But if you go there and you just want to hear yourself talk, they're going to think you suck or you just need to show off. You don't need to. Let them. And if a kid shows interest, please let the kid try. Because kids don't show interest in anything anymore. So when they care about training their dog, give them a shot.
Absolutely. And sometimes it actually helps with the parents, because if the parent can see the kid have results, they're like, oh, well, I can definitely do this. If my 6-year-old is able to do it, you know, give me the clicker, give me the leash. I want to try. Another thing that's helpful is a results-based comparison. So like, let's say that you're looking at a different type of coach. So like, let's say that you want to hire a fitness instructor and you need to lose some weight. Okay, so you go on the fitness instructor's Instagram and you see that he or she has all of these transformations, right? You see the before and after and you're like, whoa, like, this person knows what they're doing. And, you know, those type of transformations are important for people to see. And you don't always have to be online to be able to advertise these types of transformations, right? That's why word of mouth is such a great way to acquire customers. So if somebody's dog is trained and they refer a friend, that friend is seeing what their friend has done already. Maybe that friend comes to your group class. Maybe that friend was on your Instagram story, back in the day, or you posted about them. And the new person, the new client, has a way to relate to your training style because they see the results that happened previously, and that can be super influential. So it's important to be able to have a resource. It doesn't have to be online. It can just be, an actual physical referral, which is cool. And if you're comfortable throwing some videos up there every once in a while, like put a highlight reel on your Instagram page, it doesn't even have to be before or after, just like you out there training a dog, having a good time with the dog, doing some obedience, having a dog off the leash, working a dog on a long line, doing sits and downs, doing stay in place, doing, honoring while another dog is doing some obedience. Put a reel up if you host a group class, or even if you go to a group class, show yourself participating in these activities. It's so helpful for people to be able to see, what their results can be and help them to buy into the training program. And again, you don't have to be out and proud on social media in order to achieve this goal. Neither of us are with training videos, but we have some stuff up there so people can see what it is that we do. And when I do post, I make sure that I'm joyful. Like when I post video of myself in the woods with dogs, working a dog, I'm happy to be there. The dogs are happy to be there. And I'm just when I have one of those happy moments, I take the time to do a 20, 30 second selfie video and put it up there on Instagram, because I want people to see that if you have a trained dog, it's such a great, wonderful experience. So that's another thing that I wrote down. And the last thing that I wrote down is think long-term with your clients. Okay. If your problems are, I can't get my client to recharge their e-collar. Okay. Then you need to bring your own equipment to class. I understand that, if you're having to bring your own equipment to class, it means that person didn't do the work in between the first class and the class you're on now. But guess what? You have an opportunity to work on it now because you have your own equipment. I don't use any of my clients' equipment when I walk a dog. I use my own leashes. I use my own collars. I use my own e-collars because I know that they're going to work. Why do I do this? Because I am long-term with these people. I have to think long-term. They're going to make mistakes along the way. They're going to do things that annoy me, like not use the proper equipment, not charge up their stuff. So I take responsibility for that stuff when I show up to class. And if I pick up the e-collar and it's not charged, I just say, hey, buddy, I knew this collar wasn't going to be charged. That's why I brought my own stuff. Do you see the importance of having this stuff charged up? No excuses. And I make a joke and we carry on. And the next time I show up to class, their stuff is charged and it's working. Right? So long term, I know that when I work with a dog on the electric collar, there's a good chance I'm going to have them on my hiking schedule for ever. So, I want to make sure that I'm being gracious and clear with the owners so that, it is a long-term type of relationship. I'm also super duper choosy with those types of relationships. So I do not take on a lot of new people for the long term. I want to work with somebody as if I'm, like Laurie uses the term, you're getting married to them.
Yep.
Right? So I want to make sure that person, that owner, is bought in. And if they're not, I move along.
Yeah.
And granted, maybe it's because I've been doing this since 2015. The end of 2015 is when I started. So, and then I met Laurie and I have more access to people that want to do the types of things that I like to do with their dogs. But I would not be in a rush to take on somebody that, was not bought into what I was doing. And even if you're slow, you can still do that because you want your customers to be successful. So that's kind of everything that I wrote down. I don't know if you wanted to add anything. Laurie had to actually leave and she's come back in all this time that I've been ranting. So apologies for you guys having to listen to my voice this whole time. But
it's a beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And the book Extreme Ownership, if you're interested in management styles, staying on your mission, being able to work with a team. I don't work with a team of people. That book is a lot of it is about how to manage teams, but I consider my clients to be part of my team. I consider the dogs to be part of my team. if I'm able to take ownership of absolutely everything that happens when I am out and when I'm managing my team, whether it's a client interaction or whether I'm out with a bunch of dogs, it makes everything 20 times easier when there's a problem, because I'm not looking at that off-leash dog and going, screw you, owner. It's like, no, I take ownership of the situation. I'm here. I didn't leave. Right? I'm going to take ownership of it. I go to a client's house, their e-collar is not charged. I better have my own. I'm the one that's going on a walk with this dog. I have to make sure that I'm ready to go. By taking on a little bit more ownership for what's going on, it really eliminates a lot of stress. And it puts me in a position where I feel safer with the dogs because, I'm just able to make those type of decisions that I need to make in the moment that are going to be best for the time that we spend together. Obviously, nothing's perfect, but, we all do our best. And did you want to add anything? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I just...
Talking so much, my throat's dry. Whew.
Oh, Jesus, I'm parched. Gotta wet the whistle. I don't know. I just feel like my customers are all super important to me. Their time is valuable to me. Leah's telling me I need to be closer to the mic. I just think I want to do my best for my clients, and I really need them to. Like one time, a customer came for class, and I just felt like they weren't into it. And I said, "Hey, listen, I'm putting out here. Like, you have to at least pretend for me. Like when you're here, every single word you say counts." I said, "If you don't do 110% here, what are you doing at home? I can only imagine that you're doing 80% at home. But if you do 110 here, maybe 120, maybe you'll get 90 at home instead of 80. I just want them to know that if they keep trying, it will work. So they're important to me. I need them to be good with their dog. So I will put everything I have out there for them because they're not only people that I care about, they're my advertising."
Yeah, I was saying that as you were gone.
That's why I'll drop them. If things are really going to shit and the people aren't listening, I do tell them. I'm like, I got to tell you, I don't think this is working out. Like, we have addressed this over and over again. So, yeah, don't tell them I trained you. I didn't teach you that.
Yeah.
So
another big red flag for me with clients is if the client worked with another trainer and they talk a lot of shit about that trainer.
This is killing me, what you just said.
It goes for dog handlers. It goes for a doggy daycare. It goes for a groomer. I don't care. We are not doggy daycare. We're not a groomer. I'm a walker. We train. But if a client comes to us and they are complaining about other services, they are going to turn around and they're going to complain about you. So I tend to stay away from those people.
A woman, I swear to God, she opened up the conversation with how much she hated another trainer. I said, "You know what? I don't think I'm going to be the trainer for you." And I named another reason why. But, oh my God. And maybe it's happened 2 or 3 times. I said, "I don't think I'm going to be the trainer for you." Because if you can call up a complete stranger and just ream another business out, that's not for me. And it's hard for me to, it takes 2. So I always, what's the truth? Who's telling the truth? Was this somebody that didn't put in effort? Was this a frustrated trainer? God
was
knows.
It somebody with unreasonable expectations?
Yeah. So that's another thing I consider. And if, for owners, if you're going to several trainers at the same time, that's just disastrous for you. You really have to take one recipe and stick with it. Too many trainers are going to confuse you. We all do things very differently. I mean, for the most part, everyone has different techniques. So keep that in mind too,
and
guys.
They have different cadences.
One trainer
with their
at
system.
a time.
Yeah, like some people might spend. People just have different systems, and if you're going to more than one person, you're going to get confused. So like that's one thing we've been really strict about in the past year or so is if you work with us, you're working with us. We won't take offense if you go work with somebody else, but go work with them just for your dog and yourself to not be confused and for you to see results faster.
Yeah, just if you go to another trainer, you should stick with them.
Yep.
I'd rather not. Just go.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Less confusing.
Yep.
For all. Guys, we dropped some like really good nuggets in this, literally. Did you catch that?
God.
In this episode?
Oh, clever.
If you're into what you are hearing,
Poop.
Yeah.
If you're into poop.
Please share the podcast with your friends. Listen, if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, I disagree with what these people are saying, that's cool too.
Tell me.
You can tell me. You
chat
cannot
it
tell
out.
me. You can just say, hey, there's two different people that exist in the universe that have different opinions than I do. And that's cool. It doesn't mean that they're bad people, and it doesn't mean that I dislike this podcast. But if you have it in your heart and soul, if you are into what we're saying, and you would like to leave a review either on Apple Podcasts or iHeartRadio, that would mean the world to us. I'm going to try to keep the cadence up. We really appreciate the questions that came our way this week. If you have more, again, please feel free to reach out to us.
You just holla.
We'll get back to you. And I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Signing off. Wunderbar. We will. So is that what that means? Wonderful.
I think so.
Yeah,
I heard it in a movie with Einstein.
Yeah, I think that I heard it in like a Willy Wonka movie or something. I think it's German. Yeah,
Oh.
you would know because you do German stuff.
I don't do any
dogs.
German stuff.
All right, anywho.
I'm Italian.
Thank you for listening to FitPet Boston Talks. Signing off. We will see you next time.
Happy birthday, Melissa.
Happy birthday, Melissa.